Previously on Living with a Classic.
That did not go as planned. So I noticed that tank, the right tank, was pretty much empty, so I grabbed some fuel out of a jerry can, just put in 5 liters, and I could immediately, smell fuel.
Welcome back to Living with a Classic, and you saw in that intro from the last video as well, the XJ12 has a fuel leak. So in this video I thought we'd try and find out what it is. It's something in the rear. I don't think it's the tank, I think it's one of the fuel lines. I think it's the return, but not really sure, so we're going to have to take off the rear bumper and a few other things and have a look inside there and see if we can find out what that fuel leak is. And hopefully it's a quick fix. To get to the fuel tanks on a series 1, 2, or 3 XJ, the bumper needs to be removed. On the series 2, it's just held in place with 2 big nuts. You can see one back there, one over there, and then you got bolts over there that go into this panel, and then this panel can come off. There are nuts and bolts up here and then bolts down here. With that panel off, we'll be able to see the bottom of the tank. We can hopefully see what's actually leaking down here. Now everything should be loose, and you can just slide this thing backwards without trying to scratch anything. Now it's all of the bolts up here and all the ones under here we looked at before. Then this whole panel should be able to come off. With that out of the way, you can now see the bottom of the fuel tank here, and I have found the leak. See there? You see all those major cracks? That is a fuel line. That's actually a fuel line from the tank. That's not the return. So that's what's been leaking. And that's really scary because I replaced all these lines about 3 years ago. I went through everything, new pump, all these switches and everything. All lines are new. And yes, all the fuel lines were good quality ones, made for ethanol. So I don't know what's going on here. I had a quick look with a flashlight off camera because you couldn't really get the camera in there. But on the other side, without removing this panel, it looks exactly the same. It's cracked on that side. However, that side still has fuel, so it's still holding. But I mean, at any moment, it's going to start leaking out. So I'm going to empty out both of these tanks. It's easily done here with this little bolt here. Just empty out all the fuel. So I'm going to do that so I don't have any accident here in the workshop. So originally, it is metal lines from here all the way to here. However, it's really common to do something like this. Either have rubber lines all the way. I do have that on the XJ6 at the moment, but they're all brand new, so there's no problem with those. However, this is pretty common too. So a bit of rubber hose, have a bit of a hard line, and then a bit of rubber hose again. So originally it was hard line all the way into the boot area, and then just rubber hose the last bit. However, these lines do rot out because all the spray from the rear wheels, you can imagine, if you're driving in the snow or mud or salt or anything when these cars were new, it comes up here and just rots out these fuel lines. So they're very common to be replaced, which is normally not an issue. This should not be happening to the fuel lines at all. And you have the exhaust running right here. So, I mean, yeah, it might get kind of hot, but this should not happen to the fuel lines at all. The old ones I took off have been on there for maybe, I don't know, 30 years or something at least. And they were in better shape than these that have only been on there for 3 years. So that's utterly terrible. So this is not really going to be a quick fix, I think, because I thought it was just a leak here, and that size fuel line I do have at home from replacing all the fuel lines in the XJ6. However, that thick one, which is about 1/2 inch or something, I do not have at home. So I have wanted to replace all of this with metal lines or copper lines for a while now, if I can get hold of all the right fittings in here. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and get a hold of all of the hardware and everything to make this metal line or copper line from the fuel tank into the boot area, and then just fuel line for the last bit in there. And I'll see if I can find a different supplier or someone else for just that fuel line at least. No problem with these. These seem fine, but that cracking is quite scary. Let's have a look inside the boot where this fuel line is as well, and see if we have any cracking in there. I didn't see any earlier, but I haven't really looked with a powerful light. So let's have a look at that. Just put the work light in here really quickly so we can see. So here's where the hard line comes out, and then there's a rubber line. Here's the valve. Here's the hard line from the other side. and the rubber line. So this is the same hose or type of hose that's on the outside. And this one feels soft. Can't really see any tendencies for that one to crack. And for some reason, that's rock hard. And that is a little softer. So weird. This is all from the exact same roll of fuel line. So that's really strange. I mean, that one is still really good. Nothing really wrong with it. Can't see any cracking or anything. That one seems fine. This one is just rock solid. This is not going to be a quick fix. I thought that these were all going to be fine since they weren't that old and that was just a rubbing or chafing issue, but this is going to be a complete big job. So let's replace all of these lines again, or at least go through them. I mean, these still feel perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with them. They're only 3 years old, but new metal lines, new soft lines in a couple places. And I think that this time around, I'm going to install a pre-filter on the pump. Take the pump out, see if there's any weird stuff in there. There's a reason for it being noisy. Maybe these hoses are disintegrating on the inside and getting into the pump. Maybe that's a weird noise. I don't know, but that will definitely not be solved in this video right now. I'll have to order some parts, get this hose. I don't have that at home. See if I can get a really good brand. And yeah, we're going to fix this properly. Since I don't have the parts at home to fix the XJ12 properly, I've ordered now some fuel lines and some hard lines. So I'm going to buy some of those hard lines and make them myself. But that will be in a future video going through all of that. I thought at the end of this video, if you guys have stuck around for this long, we'll have a look at some other projects on the channel and a little bit behind the scenes look. So we'll have a look at this, the 1966 S-Type, we'll have a look at the XJ6, and we'll have a look at the 1999 S-Type V8 as well. There's some things going on in all those cars behind the scenes. So this is the 1966 S-Type. It is the complete restoration project that hasn't really started yet. Just been gathering parts and I have basically everything for the car now. So it's time to start the big part of the restoration, which is disassembling the car, evaluating it, of course, for rust, stripping off the paint, and basically starting to fix all the rust on this car. It's not going to be fixed right here. The plan is that where the S-Type, or I mean where the XJ6 is at the moment, that workshop over there is going to be a metalworking workshop. So that's one of those projects now for the fall/winter to put a new ceiling in there, put better lighting in there, and a different workbench, and that's going to be a metalworking workshop. So cutting, grinding, welding, all that kind of stuff. Which means that in the meantime, this car could move down there as soon as the XJ6 is back on the road. Since this is not a driver, it's pretty heavy to push, and it doesn't need to have the engine in it when we do any of that. In fact, I don't want the engine in it. I don't want the front suspension. I don't want the rear suspension in. No glass, no seats. This should be a complete bare shell. But I want to keep the engine up here in the workshop because this is where I'm going to, at some point, take this whole engine apart and see the condition of it. I don't know when it ran last. And we're going to do some type of rebuild on it. Depends on how much it needs. Maybe we'll just be, sending the block away, the head away. It will be piston rings and bearings and all that, or maybe it's a complete loss and a different engine will go in there. We'll see about that. However, it needs to come out. So that's something that's going to happen really soon. I'm going to start disassembling this car. This engine is going to come out just to make everything lighter. Then when the XJ6 is done, this can roll down the hill. It's a small little hill out here. Go into that workshop and sit there, and the disassembly can continue down there. But then I'll have this extra space up here because it doesn't need to be in this workshop at the moment. So that's the plan for this. So let me know in the comments down below if it would be fun to see a video of removing this engine, if that would be something fun to do, and then we'll have a look at it a little bit as well. I'm not going to take it apart completely, but we could open up a valve cover and have a little bit of a look at it. Let me know in the comments down below if that would be a fun video. Now let's head over and see what's going on with the XJ6. Before we have a look at the XJ6, if you want more updates or behind the scenes looks, you should check out my Instagram. It's called livingwithaclassic. I'll put a link to it down below. I try to post every day or at least every other day some updates of what's going on behind the scenes. Usually you can get a teaser of what the next video is going to be about, or sometimes you'll see something that's going to happen a long time down the line. So if you want to check that out, my Instagram is down below, livingwithaclassic. So the XJ6, not that much has been going on since the last video. I've just been cleaning off things and having a look. So the head, I haven't cleaned it off yet, just given it a light wipe and gone through everything again with a steel ruler and everything, and it is completely perfectly flat, just like it was before. But I double checked everything, even up here at the timing cover, because on camera that looks like it's higher, it's not. Everything is perfectly flat, so that's really good news. Check the head as well, it is also perfectly flat. So I think what did happen was, big mistake on my part, but I forgot to clean off one of the studs, and that was sadly this stud over here, because I found dirt around the gasket here. So when I put the head down, I pushed dirt down here, like that kind of fine sediment. That was leaking a little bit the whole time. And then finally that just, let go. So that seems to be what happened. So that's really a story. It's, there's been a lot of theories, but I think that is what happened. Definitely my fault. But things happen, and all the parts are ordered for this, and everything else is fixed. So I'm just gonna fix that one valve shim, get a different one in there. All the parts for it, all the gaskets and stuff should be here next week. And all of this can go back together, and I can finally drive this car again. I have been doing some other small things. As you see, I have the dash pad off because there was a piece missing over here for the air on the right side, so I've put all that back. Just need to put the dash pad back on. And I have ordered everything to start doing the rust proofing on this car. So all the cavity wax and under seal and primers and everything. So I thought that'd be a great thing to do before this thing gets back on the road, because it's been inside here. I can heat up the space and everything's dried out and it hasn't been out in the rain for a really long time. So I know everything's perfectly dry, so we can go through and completely try and rust proof this car as much as we can. It is an old car, of course it's going to rust, but I'm going to do the best job I can to try and minimize the rust on this car. One other thing that will help that as well is I do have a new what's it called, rubber seal for the rear window. So I'll be taking out the rear window, replacing that seal, putting that back in, so that will also help, because when it was raining severely and you were driving, you can see I put a little bit of tape right there. A little bit of water would drip down here, so that would be a good thing as well. Otherwise, this thing should be back on the road pretty soon, I hope. Now let's go and check out the 1999 S-Type. Here's the 1999 S-Type, and it's pretty dark in here, so you can't really see much, but not really much has changed with it, except for this, which I hope you guys can see. It's a replacement engine. It arrived a couple weeks ago, and it should be a good engine. It has pretty low miles, it has good service history. It looks pretty clean inside. Just had a look inside one of the valve covers before I bought it. I had them take it off to see if the timing chain tensioner had been replaced. It had not, but it wasn't broken. But I've ordered all the parts to replace the timing chain tensioner, and we're going to go through a lot of other things to make this one fit. It is a twin sensor 4-liter V8, which is the correct one. It's the correct year. However, it's from a XJ8, so an X308, so it has a different intake, has some other different things, has a different sump. So I have all the gaskets and everything for that. So we're gonna have to have both engines out next to each other, have a look at them together, and see what parts need to be moved from one engine to another. It's gonna be quite a project, but it's gonna be a lot less work than trying to get that engine working well. It had gasket issues and a lot of other issues, started making weird noises. So I think this will be the good solution. So all of this will be moved up into the workshop pretty soon. And that's it for this episode. I'm really happy I found out what the fuel leak is. It's definitely from that hose. I saw some fuel residue on it and all the major cracks. And I'm especially happy I found out about it at home and not when I was at a gas station. Imagine if that gas tank was completely full. That would have been a mess. So maybe I'll be hundreds of miles away from home with friends or family or something in the car. And that would have happened. That would have not been fun at all. So even though it's a pain, I'm really happy it happened here at home and that it didn't cause a major accident. So I think the lesson learned here is, even if you have replaced all your fuel lines and they're high quality ones, have a look at them every now and then. These are just 3 years old and you saw how bad they gotten. So have a look at yours, close with a flashlight. I couldn't really see the cracks at first. They're dusty and stuff, so they just look like they were fine, but Actually feel them, they still feel soft, and have a look at them with a flashlight, see if you can see any cracks. And then you guys got to see some of the other projects on the channel, so let me know down below if you want to see the engine lifts. We're taking out the engine from the 1966 S-Type, and it might seem kind of weird why that's happening right now, but it's just that I want to move that thing down there before winter arrives and just have it down there. Then I can start working on it when I feel like I have the time or feel like I want to. It will free up some space here in the workshop for some of the other projects going on. I will need quite a bit of space to change the engine on that S-Type V8 just because I need to have both the engines next to each other, so that will take quite some space. So that's why that car is moving. Hopefully the XJ6 will be back on the road pretty soon. All the parts should arrive about the same time as the parts for the XJ12, so next week or the week after, so I'm very much looking forward to that, and of course there will be videos on all that as well. So if you like these kind of videos, you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and get some weekly updates and hit that bell notification and you won't miss any of my future updates. And until next time, I'm Adam and this was Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.